Hola, muy buenas tardes y bienvenidos a otro programa de ¿Y ahora qué hacemos? Este programa que organizamos desde el Senado y TV Senado para hablar con algunos de los expositores y expositoras que presentan aquí en Congreso Futuro durante esta semana. Hoy estoy con Christa Prusskij. Ella es directora ejecutiva de la Sociedad Finlandesa para la Educación Mediática. Es una ONG juvenil especializada en promover y desarrollar la educación mediática en Finlandia. Tiene una experiencia muy amplia con distintas organizaciones en términos de educación, medios de comunicación, alfabetización de medios, derechos humanos y desarrollo global. Un tema que es muy importante de tratar justamente ahora que las nuevas tecnologías han básicamente inundado nuestra vida. Así que para esta entrevista voy a cambiar a inglés. Así que, welcome, Christa. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us here in Congreso Futuro, this global event that tries to bring some lights in what the future holds for us.
Thank you for inviting me.
No, our pleasure. And well, you just did your presentation a while ago and talk about media literacy and education in media.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit more what you understand by this, or what is literacy media for the public, please?
Well, I think media literacy is an everyday skill that you need it every day, and you need it in your work life, in your home life, with your friends. So it is something that cannot be ignored, and it can be many different things. But in short, it's about understanding media, it's understanding how you use media, or how the media functions, like the different media outlets, and how to kind of find sustainable and balanced digital life. And then, of course, there are lots of questions about sustainability, how the media kind of works environmentally, because there are all those questions we should also understand. So it's just very shortly said.
It's many things, but all the things are very important in this day-to-day life, because, like you said, it's not a thing; it's more on a skill, and it should be exercised, right?
Very true. Yes, exercised every day.
And in your experience, who is struggling most with this exercise of media literacy? Is there kids? Is there the young adults like me? Or is the older people?
I think we all are, but in different ways. So, I mean, there is no a person or such a person as a digitative person that is born to this world and has all the skills. It doesn't exist. So it means that all the people have to learn media literacy skills somehow. But of course the different generations have their differences. So the elderly people have different skills, and they need to learn maybe more about how to use the services and the actual equipment. But it really depends on the age. But I think there is no such a person that is perfectly media literate. I have to learn all the time as well.
Interesting, because we used to think that this is something that the child born with, like the idea that you put a phone in the hands of a child and it magically knows everything about what is happening is not that real, is it?
No, it doesn't. Even though you have the most amazing equipment, it doesn't mean that you understand. Yeah, you might understand how to use it, but how to use it in a good way. So, yeah, you have to kind of start the thinking process as well. That's why I talk about the thinking skills and the slow thinking skills, because that doesn't come with the mobile phone. That comes from your head.
Interesting. And tell me, because at your presentation you were talking about via different two types of people in the way. There's the people who face the technology in trying to learn and have something to say and do with the technology and the media, and also this other type of people that try to avoid the media and deflect from it.
Yeah.
In my experience, I was at some point. I dropped all my Instagram and all my social media because I don't want to, or I don't feel comfortable in the way that they make me feel. But in that sense, what you advise for people to do when they feel this burnout for technology?
I think that is one way to deal with it, because I think it's perfectly fine to take the social media platforms or apps from away from your phone. I think that's fine. I mean, if that works for you. So I think the key is to kind of look at your life. Do you have other things in your life? Do you have friends? Do you have the social interaction? Do you exercise and sleep well? So if you don't, then you might have a problem, and then you have to kind of start to find ways how to find the balance. So, I mean, it's very individual as well. What works for some people doesn't work to the other people. Some people like, for example, they have these watches that they are kind of measuring all the steps and everything. And great, if it works for you. But some people, like me, I get really stressed about it, so I don't want that. So, I mean, again, it really depends. But I think, like I said in the talk, that we have to make the digital work for us. So,
Interesting, because at some point you feel that the technology or all the media as a tool, but also as kind of something that pushes you to do certain things that you don't necessarily want to, and is being a topic such individual experience, how you can approach it socially. So I know you work with many governments, and you're it's a foundation as well. How do you manage to work with such a individual topic in a group of people?
Yeah, that's a good question. I suppose there's always some kind of trends. We think we are very unique and individual as human beings, but we are not really. So, I mean, a lot of people do the same kind of things. So I think you just have to maybe try to find the ways people behave and try to understand why they are doing it, and then maybe try to find solutions to that. And there are different solutions on the governmental level, regulations and laws and so on. But then there's the each individual level as well, and what works for you. And I have to remind you that, these big tech companies, they create these platforms to be addictive. And it's really difficult to go against that. So,
yeah, you mentioned two things that I very interested in. First is the idea of these big companies, the technological companies that at the end they create a product and they need to sell this product.
Yes.
So there's ways to sell. And the other part, but that's for later, is more the legislation part of how the state can, or the legislation can also find ways to help people in that regard. But in terms of the technological companies, I use it, I don't know if I'm correct, but it's similar to recycling in the way that the technologicals always put the pressure on you to restrict yourself, to not use the technology, but not in the responsibility of them creating it.
yes.
Is there something you want to, some tip or something that you want to say about this?
Yes, well, I don't have all the magic that or the answers to that, but I think one thing to do is that we have to put more pressure on the technological companies to make the technology better for us as well, and it is already happening. I mean, changes have been done, but then what comes to legislation and regulations, they always come later, that it's always lacking behind. So that's how it just is. But yeah, it is difficult to give like a tip how to deal with this, because like I said, it is meant to be addictive. So if you can't handle it, or if you think you're there too much, it's not because you are, or there's something wrong with you. It's because that's how they've been built. So.
And in terms of information and how we tend to get our knowledge of the surroundings, right now there's a huge part of the population that know things by a meme, or news on the web or everything. How do you think, or there's something that you could say about how can we reconnect this new generation with other forms of media so we can have more of the spectrum of knowledge about ourselves and the place in our world?
I think because there is so many possibilities and so many ways to do it, that's why you start to feel very, stressed about it. So I think the answer to that would be just paso a paso, just try something, and you can't do everything, so you have to do something, and you can start like learning as an educator. You can start learning about memes, for example, and create memes and what they mean and how they can change people's ideas and so on. You don't have to do all of it, so you can just do something and start from somewhere.
That's very, very important. You need to start somewhere. And talking about start somewhere, do you work with kids and children, right? Or what is the population that your foundation and your work has covered with the time?
Well, we don't actually work with children or the youth that much directly, because we work with the educators who work with them. So we train them to work with the kids. But yeah, we train a lot of people. I can't really say how, a few thousand a year, I suppose. It depends, how you calculate it. But yeah, so we we produce material and activities which are online and all the time there to be used, and they are quite widely spread. Obviously in Finnish, but still, so it is something that anyone can use at any time. So, because we are not that many people in the office, so we can't be everywhere. So we have to find other ways to reach the people. So.
Thank you, Christa. Right now we're gonna make a small pausa for the program, but we'll come back. So.
Okay.
Estamos aquí con Christa todavía conversando sobre su presentación en Congreso Futuro, así que sigan acompañándonos y volvemos en un momento. Y seguimos aquí con Christa, expositora de Congreso Futuro 2024, y ahora qué hacemos, hablando sobre su presentación, su trabajo en la fundación y como una educadora medial. Y ahora vamos a hablar también sobre legislación. So, Christa, a moment ago we were talking about how can make easy steps to help people to create a better relationship with media and the use of media. But you mentioned something important, that it's not a one person's job and task, because that would be very overwhelming for starts. But I would like to bring attention to the part of legislation, because Congreso Futuro is an event organized by the Senate, and that's something very important always, to bring attention to certain topics and how legislation could help.
Yeah.
So one of the first questions I have for you is how legislation can, in overall terms, help with media education?
I think it's important to have these policies, for example, because like even though like I said in the talk, they can be a bit tedious and boring, but they are important papers because they give us some kind of guidelines and targets. And they also look at the current situation, what is good and what needs to be done. That helps us as educators to do our work. And the curriculums are important as well. So if it's not in the curriculum, it's not going to be taught. So, but then there is that factor that if it's in the curriculum and the teachers can't teach that, well, what's the point? So you have this. It's not only the policy, but you have to look through like the whole society, basically, the whole educational system. So yeah, I mean, it's a big job, obviously, but you have to kind of look at it in as an investment in the future. What are the future skills that the kids, for example, they need? So yeah,
I think one of the main issues with legislation is that it seems that it always comes late to the discussion. So, for example, I don't know, we legislate about health problems with there's a problem, not with a vision for the future. In your experience, and I know the realities for different countries are different, but in your experience, what was the first sign when you said, you know what, this should be legislated, regulated, or talk about in schools?
Yes, well, I mean, the media literacy work, the media education started in the 50s in Finland. So it started with the kind of looking at the films and how they affect us. Then in the 60s, the mass media and the TV came. And as like it's always like people were really scared, or like, oh my God, there's TV, or it's going to be bad for us. So often we look at it through that. But you know, as the years went past and by, it kind of evolved into more comprehensive understanding that the media is many other things as well, and it can be beneficial too. So it's hard to pinpoint when it started, and to be honest, I can't remember when it's the first time media literacy was in the curriculums, but that's already like this curriculum we have now, it's almost 10 years old, and it was in the previous one, so I think maybe like 20 years ago. That's more or less when our NGO, our organization started. And it was funded because it was realized that media education is important, but not really talked about. So we were funded because of that. And of course, the world has changed now, and there are different problems and challenges. But I mean, the work is not done yet, so we still have work to do.
Great. Well, the work is, I think, evolving in a way, no? The television, I was a television baby, so I still believe more in the television, or have more connection with the television that I had with, I don't know, Twitter, Instagram. I think it's very generational? Yeah, generational.
Yeah?
Yeah, but something that strikes me very interesting in the idea of media literacy is the fact that it's not talked about sufficient in the day-to-day life. We tend to talk about fake news, or now the idea of the television, it's all a setup, but is the public opinion important as well in order to make all this very complicated system works, or it could be kind of at the same time creating a new way of seeing media?
Of course, the public opinion is important, but it kind of makes me wonder how easy it is to compare different countries, because we trust the public media. Like there's a very high trust in public media in Finland, one of the highest in the whole world. So the information we get through that is already something that we believe in. So and we do get a lot of different kind of information, even about media literacy. Maybe it's not called media literacy, but it's that. So so it's important to have the access to the information. So if you don't have the information or the unbiased information that is just not trying to convey one idea, like a simplistic truth, it's difficult to change the public's opinions. But also we need to understand where the public is. If you want to kind of talk to them, you have to know where they are. And that's why, for example, the election year now is interesting, because a lot of the things happen in TikTok, for example. So, like they say that it's going to be a TikTok election. So, yeah, we will see.
Some people say that we already had Facebook elections, and there's a whole discussion about how Facebook and fake news kind of create new trends and ways to see the political spectrum. But it is really interesting that it is an ever-evolving and never-changing relation that we create and we have between the society, the media, and how we fed ourselves from that.
Yeah.
So in that regard, and just the final questions, how do you envision the future? I know it's general, but how do you, Christa, envision the future?
Well, I suppose I would like to be unemployed. So the work is being done, but I don't think that's how it's going to be. So, but I think I would like to see less polarized world and more dialogue. That's what I would like to see. So that's maybe something I hope, and yeah, and then many things will come with that. It's that simple, really.
Well, it's simple, but it's not simple.
No.
Well, polarization is a huge topic, and I believe right now it's this need for a middle ground where we can discuss and we can share experience and listened is yes. Always important.
Yeah, because we can agree to disagree. So, I mean, not everybody has to think the same. So, I mean, you just have to find more middle ground, that's for sure.
Exactly. It's a little bit boring when everyone's thinking the same as you. There's a space of life. Well, Christa, thank you very much for joining us in this interview and also in this huge event, Congreso Futuro. And I hope you're enjoying your stay in Chile.
Yes.
It's been a fun experience so far?
It's been really, really good. Yeah, I really liked it. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Muchísimas gracias a todos por acompañarnos y por estar una vez más aquí en este programa. ¿Y ahora qué hacemos de Congreso Futuro 2024? Mi nombre es Carlos Vázquez. Muchas gracias y hasta luego.